live and live.
Hey, y'all. Thank you all so much for being here. This is the second, episode of I Respectfully Disagree, which is designed to be an open and honest conversation about topics that directly or indirectly affect our community. Specifically, today's event is meant to demonstrate that disagreement and disrespect are not synonymous with and do not have to coexist. While we can't always control the experiences that inform our opinions, we can control how we lead with love and a genuine desire to listen and learn. I guarantee you that these brothers will disagree, but I can also guarantee that they will do so respectfully. Now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Lou Holder.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jones, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here. A little backstory. Etan Thomas, I covered Etan Thomas as a Emmy Award-winning sportscaster for a long, long time. And when Etan started to get his platform, he would ask me about some things, and we would talk. And we found out that we disagreed on some things, me and the media and him as an athlete. And so we came up with this title after one of his shows, I Respectfully Disagree. And we wanted to show people that you can respectfully disagree with people and still have your voice. And so it has caught on. People all over the country now want us to duplicate what we started. We did one episode at Bowie State University, and now we have this one, and we are heading to a number of places around the country over the next couple of months. But this one's special because we have some brothers that are very, very opinionated. And again, like Dr. Jones said, we will disagree on some things, but we all do it in love, and there's a way to voice your opinion. And at the end of the day, respectfully disagree or agree with the other person. So the other people that I have, and again, I'll just rattle off my distinguished guests. I'm the moderator here. I'm the traffic cop for these brothers. Etan Thomas, an activist, writer, motivational speaker, and former NBA player. Red Grant, my fraternity brother, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yet throw up the yo for the new businessman, community activist, and one funny as bleep comedian. And then we have Rev Yearwood, educated Howard, educated UDC minister, community activist, and president of the Hip Hop Caucus. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining what should be an hour of fun as we just throw out some topics. Again, we're not going to hit everything, but it's that kind of little taste. And again, we are showing people that you can respectfully disagree. So I'm about to throw out some topics. Somebody take it, and I will kind of moderate and make sure that we stay on the rails here. There's a bunch of topics, both nationally and locally here for the Washington, D.C. area that I want to hit on. But first, like I always do, I want people to hear a little bit what's on your mind. So Etan Thomas, I'm going to start with you. What's that one thing that's out there right now that's on your mind, that's bothering you, that is exciting you? That one thing before we get into our conversation. What's that one thing that you could say is on your mind?
Ooh, well, it's a lot. I don't even know where to start.
One thing for
me. Okay, all right. Well, we're in the middle of a war right now, and it kind of came out the blue, and people are not, my kids are asking me, just I picked them up today, isn't there a way that they learn in civics class that you're supposed to go about war and rules of engagement and all these things that they're learning? And it's like, it doesn't seem like we're doing. So it bothers me that the example that we're setting for children is what it is right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Rev, what's that one thing, that one topic out there? Could be sports, entertainment, politics, culture. What's that one thing out there that's on your mind right now?
The key thing is Hollywood. I think, just with the consolidation of a lot of Hollywood coming together, what's that mean for Black Hollywood? What's that mean for our voices? What's that mean for us telling our stories? The words of Tony K. Bombara ring true. The role of the artist, the comedian, the athlete are to make the revolution irresistible. And how are we going to do that if we don't have a platform? I mean, this is phenomenal, but this is why I think that this is a time for us to really see about make sure our voices are heard.
Thanks, Reb. I appreciate it. Red, what's that one thing out there for you that is just on your mind? On your mind?
I think is our inability to lift our heads up because of social media. Um, I think that we have been brainwashed to look down right now instead of looking up, and it bothers me because it's influencing our young people so much. And I do fall into that category of putting my head down a lot, but now I'm lifting it back up, and I'm seeing that it's so much more up than it is down. So that is really bothering me, and I'm trying to be an advocate to make sure our young people are actually looking up again.
I like that. War, social media, and Hollywood. Those are the three things that are on these gentlemen's mind. And I'm sure all three of those will come up in our hour-long conversation this evening. So I'm going to throw out the first one, and then again, somebody take it, and then we'll go from there. And we're just going to ad-lib this thing. So the first one up, I think, is really profound. I'm just going to read it. Again, I came up with these topics, and then I'm just throw it out there and you all respond. At a time like this, Iran, war, ICE, politics, it's better for athletes, comedians, rappers, and all entertainers to stay out of it, especially if they're not versed enough to discuss. They can do more harm than good if they say the wrong thing.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
You saying that
it is better for athletes, comedians, rappers.
I understand what you said. You don't have to believe me. I hear it quickly. I think it's you almost saying are you a scared Negro, or are you a Negro that's actually ready to fight the power? And I think that me and Etan talked about this last night about how fear is going to be our worst enemy. So I think that if we have that power, we should step up at all times to use it, because our forefathers did, and they weren't scared. They weren't scared to use their voices to protect us and get us further in life. So why are we scared now?
Yeah, I agree with Red 100%. I mean, I it's different, Lou, for different sectors. So when Etan was in the NBA or NFL, or those are controlled differently. They're the same. It's all entertainment to some degree, but it's controlled. So the voices are controlled differently. It's harder, I think, in many cases, for folks in the NFL, NBA to say certain things because they're within a system which that means for those of us who may be actors, artists, still within a system, but it's a little different, and how that can operate. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier with Tony K. Bombard, that amazing quote. The role of the artist, the athlete, is to make the revolution irresistible. I would also say though, but it is important to have information. We see a lot of artists right now who don't have a lot of information, and that can be very dangerous because they have a platform. They got a lot of people who are following them. If they say something that goes left, then they have to be mindful of that. So I would say that it's for me, having worked for a lot of athletes and artists, and particularly artists over the years, I've seen transformations. Obviously, I worked with T.I., did his first voting campaign. Etan was there back in 2008, and you can see the transformation. I've also worked with Amber Rose, and you can see a transformation. You can see some artists go forward, some artists don't go forward. So I think but they have information on how to influence. It doesn't reduce their voice. I'll be very clear, because you're not saying Democratic issues or quote unquote progressive issues. Your voice is your voice. If you feel something is important, if you think it's Republican, if you want to deal with it, that's your voice, and you should be allowed to say that. But I also think you need to be accountable to your community. Who is your community? Who are your people? Who's following you? Who's trusting you? And I think that's important to really get that knowledge before you speak.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The last point that you made about how important it is to get the knowledge before you speak, and I do feel that not everybody with a platform should be speaking. I do feel that because just because you have a big platform doesn't mean that you're fine tuned in how you are able to present a topic. Because the fact that you do have this big platform, when you say something, people are going to listen. People are going to hear you. So if you don't know what you're talking about, literally, you're going to make us all look bad because that's the way that it works. When a black athlete, a black rapper, a black comedian speaks for something, all of a sudden they're speaking for the whole community. That's just the way that it is. It's not the way it should be. It should be that they're just speaking for themselves. But they're end up speaking for the whole community. So if you don't know what you're talking about, it can do more harm than good.
Well, I respectfully disagree in a way, right? Okay. So I want to say Snoop Dogg told me, I think it's more of training now. You feel me? Snoop told me one day, he was like, when I was running for office, he was like, you need media training, right? Before you start talking out here. So yeah, we do need to be talking, but like Doc says, some of us don't need to be, but we need training. We need to start understanding how to articulate our thoughts. We speak many different languages. One is hood, and some people don't understand those languages. So we need to be able to be versed in all languages. And I think that's sometimes is one of our biggest problems as entertainers. We don't understand how to really get our words across.
Yeah, and that's powerful.
Go ahead.
No, that's powerful. Because I think Red is saying it's important because I think a lot of times in this industry, people don't know this, and this is important for them to know. When you're in this industry, we go from the streets to the suites.
Yes, we do.
And there's a transition there. That's Lou as well. From a media standpoint, we know that. So how we're living in the streets and how we're communicating in the streets is vastly different. People start getting money, and you're working around an industry, you have your own company, to the suites. And I think a lot of times people still want you to be in the streets. That might be your brand, it might be your field, and you want to communicate that way, but you can't because now you're in these suites. And so I think that there's a dynamic there. And also, to your point in time, then there's courage needed. Because then if you're representing those who are in the streets and they're looking to your voice, you can get comfortable in those suites. And that's why then you need a community. You need to be like, all right, well, I'm here, but for me, that might be, God placed me here for a reason. So I got to speak truth to power. I got to, regardless, I know I got here, but that's a hard leap. And then how do you communicate that in a way that doesn't have you on Front Street? And if you're not trained, you could be eaten up.
And sometimes I actually will throw in there, I was like, sometimes the training can come from within. I mean, it's all about reading the room. I mean, if we're very versatile people, and sometimes it's a matter of how bad do you want to be versatile. Some people go on a platform, I'm just going to be me. But yeah, you can go ahead and be me, but that's not the way that you advance in here. It's not about anybody selling out, but it's about reading the room and understanding the environment that you're in. And that sometimes that's the training from within. Sometimes there's formal training that you could have where I got to where I am by formal training, but some of them is just the positions that we've been in, you kind of learn. And you want to adapt because being adaptable is actually better than just being in a silo, right? And I just feel that is something that you all sparked on, everybody sparked on. That is a way that you can get your voice out and just be versatile. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong.
Let me just add one little part to it because this is an important caveat. White people are allowed to be ignorant where we are not. So we have a president of the United States.
What you mean by that? What you mean by that?
I'll tell you. We have a president of the United States. We watched him during the debates. Did he sound intelligent in any debate? You can tell me. Did he sound intelligent? Did he sound learned? Did he sound any of those things in any of the debates? But it didn't matter. White people can be mediocre and still excel.
In the trailer park community, he was super intelligent. the trailer park community thought he was.
No.
I'm not.
Not that he was intelligent. He was saying things that appealed to them because he said that the reason why you're in the situation you're in is those people over there. So his technique was very, very strategic. But I'm talking about his entire presentation, even going back to Hillary. You can not like Hillary for a million reasons, but if you watch the debates, which one sounded more intelligent? Which one sounded more like they had a grasp of all the different facts? Of all the, whether you agreed with them or disagreed with them. So my point is, we can't get away with what they can get away with, and I think that's important. It's a harsh reality, and it's messed up, and it shouldn't be that way. But I think that's the way that it is.
Yeah. Let me go on to the next one. Let me go on to the next one because it kind of dovetails into this. Charles Barkley just stated, and I quote, "I'm not a Trump guy, but if I got invited to the White House, I'd go. I just wish y'all would stop falling for stupidity."
I'm gonna let Tom take that. That's another NBA player.
It's interesting, and I won't spend too much time on Barkley, but Barkley says things almost as if it has been mandated for him to say them. There's certain Black people in very high positions in the media, right? And when you hear them talking, they're parroting different talking points that you're like, okay, they were told to say that. And that's really what I felt that way when I heard him talk about Kyrie Irving. I felt that way when I heard him talk about certain different police murders that happened where Black people were killed. There's certain positions that he takes, and I think it's by design. I honestly do. I don't have any proof. I don't have anything like that, but I think that there are certain people that are told to take certain positions publicly. So that's what I feel about what Charles Barkley just said.
Well, Charles Barkley is a natural troller too. I mean, he's been trolling before the word trolling was being used, and he's always gone against the grain. You got to understand, he grew up in Alabama, and played at Auburn. And he's been around a lot of people of different races, but mostly, I think, white a lot. And he's been able to navigate through those situations by saying things that they want to hear. And I think when he gets on TV, he says what they want to hear, because no way in hell that we really think that when we're protesting a situation, we're gonna show up at the White House. It just don't work like that. If you're mad about a certain thing, I'm not gonna come to your house, Etan, if I feel like me and you don't agree.
Right.
I don't give a damn if you say, well, I'm the coach of the recreation center and all these kids won. I'm not coming over there.
Right.
And he has his opinion. I mean, maybe he feels like people should show up. Maybe he feels like people shouldn't take a knee either.
Well, I think that leads into what I said earlier about how the NBA, NFL are a little different because they punish their trailblazers. Obviously, they punish Colin Kaepernick. NBA punished Craig Hodges. I can go down the list of all those. To some degree, they punished Etan Thomas. And so we can go down that how they do it, and that's for a variety of for a clear reason, because they don't want their brand to lose its luster, whatever that luster may be. And I think that when you hear of those, and I want to what Charles is talking about, and I'll get to it from a different angle actually, because I don't, I'll say it from this angle. I actually and at time I don't know anybody else, but we both have kids who are great athletes. My kid actually is a pro hockey player. He actually plays overseas right now. So he's a brother, plays ice hockey, 6'4", 230, out there playing pro ice hockey. Now he's overseas in Estonia and over across the pond. That's where he's at most of the time. But the thing, though, is that we've talked about that. During the time when Colin was taking a knee, he was the only brother playing ice hockey. And we had a long conversation about what would you do? And to have, to your point, to your point, Red and Lou and Etan, to have situational awareness. What's that mean for you to do that? Like, how can you do that and be safe? Because this is at
Right.
the time the height, and we had that conversation, but also had a conversation about what it means to be a black man, and in the spirit of your ancestors and legacy. And there's some things that you have to make a decision that when this career, when ice hockey, we're no longer pro ice hockey. When that career is over, will you be able to look at your children in the eye? And so to just say this, to show up at the White House, knowing all the things being done to your community through ICE, through other elements, it's a hard pill. And I think that you have to just be in a way where you can miss certain things and not show up, and maybe not give the excuse they want. Maybe not be like, I'm not coming because I don't like Trump, but maybe like, I got to go for, I'll get some new glasses or something. I don't know. But you got to figure out a way. So you ain't, you dipping out. But I think that's important, that we got to train our kids. But it is also, we also as a community, when athletes, when artists, when comedians, when producers, we do stuff, our community has to also have our back. They can't let us be hanging, because the next day we'll go out and say something, and they be, oh man, that was wonderful, man, power to the people. And then we out there on Front Street. And then we like, well, where you at? And then like, they're not there. So there's a give and take to this conversation.
Yeah. And Etan and I had this kind of discussion about Stephen A. Smith, and the way that once you go down that road of making takes and shocking whatever, the establishment will pay you to say such things,
Yep.
and then you will start saying those things on a regular basis and probably don't even believe half the stuff you're saying. I mean, when they came up with that title for that show, First Take, it is that is what is being sold. What is your first take? And so Steve Smith was a great writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer when Allen Iverson was playing. He's so far from that now because he had to make a take, then he made another take. Now he's walking into buildings and entourages and things like that. He's so far away from the journalist that I know, right? Mm-hmm. And so Charles comes in there, says something funny, and they laugh. And then could you say something funny again? Dance for me. Could you say something funny again? Right. And then they say something funny again. And then he's not a comedian like Red, but he's just saying funny things that's making Shaq and Kenny and all these other people laugh. And so now he says things like, I'm not a role model. And then later on he says something like this, and people react to it. But really, like Etan said, it's planted. Like, I don't even know if he believes half the stuff that he's saying, but we're talking about it because some of the stuff that people are saying are offensive, right? But they have to keep saying it because they are getting paid to say such things. You're Stephen A. Smith, highest paid employee at ESPN for a while because of the takes that he makes. So we can't get, caught with the, banana in the tailpipe. For me, I just had to. Etan said that I had to jump in and say that.
Well, can I say something though? We sometimes are hypocritical, right? We won't go to the White House, but we'll go shopping at Gucci. We'll go to NBC. We'll look at all their shows who've been dogging us. We'll go. I'm just saying, these networks who don't give a damn about the us. You know what I'm saying? We got to really take a stand on everything. Don't just take a stand on one thing. We got to start taking stands on everything. In the comedy community right now, we don't even have a comedy union. You feel me? We don't even have a union that protects comedians from these clubs that have been trying to pay us the same price since 2004.
Wow.
And if I bring it up and I say, oh man, let's do a union, man, so they won't keep giving us this little bit of money when they making $70,000-$80,000 in the weekend, they giving you $5, and you the main attraction. So I'm saying if we gonna come together, and let's come together on all fronts. Let's put a big big old list together of what we need to do. And we can't go out and protest everywhere, but we can make it normal to not be effed around. You know,
And I, and
and
I, I agree with that. But when you have something as polarizing and as harmful to the entire world as Trump, that's kind of an outlier. So with Barkley specifically, kind of not chastising, but kind of waving his finger a little bit. I think that I go back to my original point. There's a reason why he did that. There's a reason why he said it. There's a reason why he took that position.
that's his
Like I said, I
man.
have no proof. I have no proof of any of this.
That's
But
his man. Come on, brother. That's his man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They all been in the same circles. I mean, it's a real situation. Remember everybody loved Trump when he was saying you're fired, right?
no, that's not true. Some
Well,
people
a lot,
did.
a lot, a
I
lot more
respectfully
people.
disagree.
Some people
A
did.
lot more people did. A lot more
No.
people did than before he became president.
No, no, all right. So people who really knew about Trump, especially in New York, I was born in New York. My first introduction was Trump was about the Central Park Five, and
Oh.
back in 1989. I was in middle school, so
That's
I learned about who Trump is when he took out that whole death penalty and trying to him and Giuliani were saying that they were animals, and he was saying they were saying that they were monsters and all this different stuff. That was my introduction to Trump. So
Oh.
when I saw him later on, because remember I played with Michael Jordan, so Trump wanted to be around. He likes to be around successful black people. I wasn't fooled about who he was. Just
Right.
because he liked to be around some successful black people, that don't mean that you love black people because you want to be around Michael Jordan.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times people get fooled, especially when it's like a black celebrity, that means that they like black people. Those are two very different things.
Yeah. Trump, I mean, to his credit, I mean, he was using, I mean, we all love, I mean, these reality TV shows. He was just basically putting that out there as a fleece to see if America would like all the drama and everything like that. And they did. The Omarosa, all that stuff. Like people were eating that up. As far as having an opinion that was not political. He was not a politician, but he was having this thing. I mean, he was a television. He was trying to find out what this was. And again, it wasn't the best political candidate. It was the best candidate that people were, and they didn't want to hear any more political thing. They wanted to hear something different. And as he treated them for the first part of his first term, his whole White House was, The Apprentice. You're fired. You're fired. Like everybody was. And he likes that. He likes that. So he used television to his advantage. I'll be read with that. That was not a mistake. He planted all of that, right? That was planted for me.
Well, I just don't agree with war, period, right? So I'm a dude that don't agree with war, period. I try to be that individual that we can say, I know it's a diplomacy or diplomatic way to solve all situations. And, killing innocent people, and even if you're targeting people that or that you're mad at, it's still innocent people getting hurt in this situation. And it's around the world. This has been going on since Vietnam. This has been going on since, before we even were born. And, when are we going to wake up to see that it's bigger than the war? It's bigger. They trying to hide some real situations out here. These Epstein's files is really on their head right now. And that's
Right.
really what's going on. And nobody's talking about these babies and these kids that was being fondled and killed and all kind of stuff that was going on. So I just when I talk about him, I just be like, man, it ain't just him. It's so many people that's been pulling the wool over our eyes. And I'm not saying like people like you, Etan, you've been knowing him. You feel me? You knew him back in the day. But I'm telling you, it's getting deeper in our society. That's why it's time for us to, as black people, not to always look at what they're doing and looking down, but look up and see what we can do.
That's a fact.
Anything else, Rev? I'm gonna move on to the next one.
No, that's a fact.
Okay.
I mean, everything is being said is real. I just would add that I think that one thing that Red is saying is very important in this process is that in this moment, while Trump is a disaster on many levels, the thing at that in this moment, that how are we still looking up for our community? What are we going to be in the same spot after, or because we got Trump twice for a reason, and a lot of us, and so there's a lot of things I think that in this moment, what can we do, and what can we do to help protect our community? I mean, there's a lot of things happening that's being rolled back. Obviously, clean air, clean water is being rolled back. So what can we do to make sure that people can get clean air and clean water? We got things. I mean, I just saw a report the other day, which was crazy, that because of the rollbacks on petrochemicals, that we now are consuming a credit card size worth of plastic in our body every single week through plastic microfibers, meaning that that's hardening the arteries, making us sick. I mean, those things, because we're not even regulating that no more. On top of the wars, on top of the brutality. So it's so what can we do now? And our children, Tourette is also saying, our children are seeing this. So they get normalized to hate. They get normalized to racism. They get normalized to this kind of bullying tactic. So what can we do now so that we can make sure our children can have a better future than what we're seeing right now?
But I think that our children are seeing that you have to stand up to bullies. I mean,
Facts.
that's when speaking with, I love speaking with young people. You know what I mean, and going to high schools and going to colleges and middle schools and having those talks, and the feedback that I'm getting from them. I'll shout out to my middle school in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Carver Middle School. I went and spoke with them, and they had a big anti-ICE walkout, and they invited me to come back the next day. And so I'm talking to them, I'm like, so what is y'all reason for doing this? Because they were like, because this is wrong. Like, what we're seeing is wrong. We can't just act like it's okay. We can't just go along with it. And I was so impressed by them because they have that fearlessness to say, we might get in trouble. We might get suspended. Like, and I think 2 weeks prior to that, another county had suspended like a whole lot of students for doing a walkout. They were unfazed by it. You know what I mean? They were like, this is wrong. And we're going to stand up and say it's wrong. And I just, when I see young people doing that, I'm like, it feels like hopeful. You know what I mean? With all this terribleness going on, all this badness going on, you have a younger generation that is not afraid to say, this is wrong. Not worrying about no Republican, Democrat, or liberal, conservative, or anything like that. Just right and wrong. And that's a lot of times I feel that we can learn from young people because we get into conversations and we compartmentalize it. Well, this Republican said this, and then this, they're like, no, we ain't even talking about none of that. You know what I mean? ICE shot this lady in the face. That's it. That's wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's something that we have to be able to, when a lot of adults are afraid to stand up for what is right, we have to look at our young people and see how they're not afraid right now. And it's always the younger generation. Back when you talk about Vietnam, back you talk about it's always the younger generation. SNCC, that's why Dr. King was supporting them. He was like, no, these young people, this is where it's at. And the other old Baptist preacher was like, well, no, they need to fall in line with us. And he was like, no, we need to support them. That's the reason why he was doing it, because it's the youth are the ones that are going to take over. The youth are the ones that are going to replace all the old heads. And that's where we got to gain our inspiration from.
Can I add something to that? I think what you're saying is very, very important. Why we got to gain from our young people. One, I think they're different. I want to make sure as people understand, our parents were very revolutionary. And we talk about that all the time. Malcolm and Dr. Dorothy Height, and we go down the list. But was not very different. But this generation here, they are not just being revolutionary, but to your point in time, they're being solutionary. Mm-hmm. So they sit around and they be like, well, how can we get rid of ICE? What we going to do? So they just think, so sometimes people that they move a little slow, but they really be on it. But the other part to them that's real is that while our parents in the 20th century fought for equality, these young folks recognize in the 21st century, they fighting for existence. And so their mentality is like the whole if we allow for this, what's going on in Iran. I mean, literally, I mean, Trump has bombed 8 countries in a course of 12 months. And so they're like, if we continue on this path, there will be no more world. And so they just have, but you're right. There's a different movement to how they, how they move.
Okay. You guys are listening to I Respectfully Disagree. Lou Holder along with Red Grant, Etan Thomas, and Rev Yearwood. Here's the next question, fellas. Will Smith and Chris Rock are scheduled to have a sit-down interview with ABC News. This appears to be a high-profile, one-on-one, in-depth conversation intended to address the 2022 Oscar incident. This is a great idea. Not? Do you agree? Respectfully disagree? What are these two even doing on the air? What say you, fellas?
Well, those are Red folks. Those are comedians.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Well, you can look to that box.
Let me say this, man. Propaganda is real. Propaganda has been fooling people for so long that it don't make sense. I think it can help in many ways if they are really at each other and they really beefing. I think that this is a good opportunity to show people that you can have water under the bridge, and no burn bridges. But if it's just to be propaganda, it don't really work for me, because I never believed it in the first place. I thought it was a fake slap. No black man in America gets slapped on stage and not come back with something. I'm talking about swing the microphone, I mean, something, you know what I mean? Kick them, act like you're going to kick them, But this slap and hold your face, I've never believed that. I've never seen no black man in America get slapped in front of that many people, white people in general, and stand there holding their face. I never believed that it was true. They both are great talents, but I just feel like, don't try to fake me out. Will, I know Chris, not as well as I know Will, but I just don't feel like either one of them, if they not sitting down talking about, look, man, we as people, we got to come together and put our differences aside, and no matter if I slap this hell out you or not, hopefully you can forgive me. It's heavy because of the simple fact, a woman was involved. When you got women involved, that's a whole nother spectrum. Women have taken down whole empires out here.
Still.
To this day. So I'm trying to figure out, and then what's all this stuff that came out after that with Jada, and people, and just I'm so right now, and I tell my wife the same thing. I'm so fed up with all of it. We need to stop being real with one another, get to our real roots, our African roots, and see how we can really start this whole thing over, because I don't know if this monogamy stuff is working.
What you mean? What you mean? Where'd that come from?
I'm just saying, he slapped Chris. She still go and hit August Alsina. And I mean, it don't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? Keep my wife's name out your mouth, but she got something else in her mouth.
Oh, Red. I mean, okay, all right. Let me say.
Somebody respectfully disagree with him.
Yeah, I look at it a little different. I have to say I respectfully disagree. I remember seeing the image of Magic and Isaiah sitting down and hashing it out, and I thought it was a beautiful image. You know what I mean? Are they perfect now, or do they still not have any hard feelings? I don't know, and that's not even my business. But the fact that they could sit down, apologize to each other, and hug it out. I think that that's an image that we need more of black men in particular. I do. So I have, y'all know my former teammates, Gilbert Arenas and Kwame Brown, and they've been beefing for a long time. I tried, okay? I tried to get them together to hash it out. It didn't work at all. Like, I think I even made things worse. But I think that the image is great. So if we see the image of Will Smith and Chris Rock, I'm sorry I made fun of your wife. I'm sorry I slapped you in the mouth in front of everybody and they hug it out. I think it could be positive. That's my take on it. That's my take.
Right.
Okay. Well, I guess so. We got.
I mean, there's the image of them making it up. There's the image of them making up. And Red's like, there should have never been an image because it was fake to begin with. Rev, what say you?
I mean, I was with Rev to the end. I don't know Rev. I don't know what that with the last
sorry,
piece.
I get a little bit. I went a little left.
Yeah, you want? Yeah, I was like, you know,
he has a tendency to do that.
Somebody like, hold up, man.
He has a tendency to do that, go a little left.
I'm sorry, Rev. I'm sorry.
A little too far past the Dairy Queen. Then we was like, hold up, that was. But I'll say this though, this is on the real. This is, you know, it's hard for us to achieve the levels they both have achieved. I mean, what Will Smith and Chris Rock achieved, I mean, to be at the time hosting the Oscars, to have had a whole TV series, to go from a rapper to just an A-list, to be an A-lister is a very difficult thing. It's a very controlled thing, but it's a very difficult thing. To get to that level, that amount of power. I mean, you are a machine. You have a whole enterprise. You have a whole team around you. You have, I mean, you are making other people millionaires just by what you do. To what Red is saying though, to kind of be that, let that be the argument. Like, that's the line you're going, like, that's where you're going to take the line. Like, I mean, to your point, it's like, if you're going to take that line, let's go for you that to be the Trump. If you're going to use that to be the line, let's go out there and expose just a lot of stuff on that stage and then be gone with it. But if that's going to be your line. And so it does seem like that seems to be a little bit like maybe they kind of had to do that. That was kind of like part of some kind of show, because you don't get to that level. I'm telling you, when you're in those rooms, a lot of folks understand those rooms are controlled. When you're in the rooms like that you're at the Oscars, or even you can make the BET Awards. I mean, that could be made a little crazy, but if you in those rooms, it is a complete controlled environment. It is not like it is on TV. When you sit on TV, when the cameras are there, people walk around, they talk to one another. They 5 seconds, y'all, get back to your tables, and we all run back to our little spots and get there. But it's a control to be able to walk up on stage and make that happen. That's a wild situation. So I just want to say, me and Ray in the call the last part. I'm gonna have to respectfully get the call in the last bit, but I'm with Red.
Well, let me strike the last part from the record.
We ride.
So let me strike the last part from the record. But I do want to say, if he would have walked on stage and slapped Brad Pitt, let's just
facts. Yeah, go there. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
and if he just slapped Brad Pitt in the face, right, and Brad would have been standing up there with his hand held, you don't think they would have came to Will in his seat with the security, police?
I'm sure.
And everybody else,
I'm sure,
escorted him out, but they allow him to smack another black man on TV
and then get his award.
And get his award.
That's right. Get his award. And hold on. And poor Questlove, that was the award he was supposed to be getting at the time, and nobody remembers the brilliance of Questlove because all they remember is the slap.
No. But let me say this though to Reverend Yearwood, because there's one part you said that I have to respectfully disagree with. You said that they've achieved so much, but they let that be the catapult for everything. And I've heard people say that same thing with T.I. and 50 Cent. And I think that there is something where if you don't tolerate disrespect of your wife, even if your wife is raggedy, not saying nobody is raggedy specifically here, but I'm saying even if your wife is raggedy, you're not gonna clown my wife. Like you're not gonna disrespect her. I can say that she's this, and this, but you're not going to do it.
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you on that.
That's like, you know, testing my manhood. So I would almost like if somebody like T.I., I would look at him funny if he didn't say nothing back to 50 Cent. After that, you know what I'm saying? That's your wife.
Yeah, well, I agree. No. Yeah.
I'm not saying Will Smith should have slapped him, but I mean, that's his wife. And whatever you want to call her, whatever she is, that's that man's wife. So,
all right. Well, I guess it's cool for them to sit down, man. I guess I ain't gonna hate on the sit down, but I do want something to come out of the sit down. I want to be able to like say, look, they need to have a message for this. Don't just sit down. I want to hear something. You know, I want to hear something that's going to be positive for the future of our community, whether it be the entertainment community, whether it be our natural community, or us as African Americans. You know, I just the sitting down I really don't give a dang if they sit down. It don't even really mean nothing if it ain't nothing coming out of it.
Mm-hmm. With you. Listen, I'm with that all the way. They come together. Listen, radical. Come together, meet, and then come out there and say, we doing a voting campaign together called slap the vote.
Yeah, slap the vote. Slap a vote out your household. Or
yeah, we gonna.
That's hilarious.
Keep my vote in the box.
Yeah.
All right, listen. Here's another entertainment one that's really good.
Vote, you know what I mean?
This one is really good, and I definitely want to get your stance on this. John Davidson said he will never apologize for having Tourette's syndrome after the BAFTA slur towards Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo.
Woo. I got Tourette's every day. I understand. I say some stuff to my wife sometimes. I wish I could pull it back. I wish what they call it, Etan, redact all that
redaction.
I wish I could redact.
But you've never said that during your Tourette's.
Nah, I haven't said that. Me and my wife, we get along for the most part, you know, and I don't really curse, you know, in my house like that to them. But I'm just saying.
Look at Etan's face. Etan's face says, "I respectfully disagree."
I just, my curse words is a little different when I'm more tell off. I don't curse out. I tell off. Because
I don't know what that means, though, Red. But go ahead.
They sometimes put you in the corner and want to grab your joints off and just like say, "Hey, you ain't a man." Sometimes, so you gotta grab them and be a man sometimes. So I just gotta be a man sometimes. But I would say I think he really knew what he was saying. I don't just think that you just saying the word nigga, just saying it. I don't think that's just happening. No. That was never a part of his Tourette's. They did a whole what is it called? They did a whole research on Tourette's, and they said that word is hardly ever used in the Tourette syndrome. So I'm trying to figure out, he ain't did that his whole Touretteness.
His whole Touretteness.
His whole Touretteness. But that night, he just felt good about it.
Yeah. He's not apologizing for it.
Yeah.
So he should.
Yeah.
Huh? My question, do you think he should apologize? Do you agree, respectfully disagree that he shouldn't apologize because of the Tourette's?
Of course he should apologize. It's not apologizing for Tourette's. It's apologizing for saying something that was offensive to somebody. It's right. Nobody asked him to apologize for Tourette's. You just gotta switch it around on everybody. So my question is, I have two questions. If that word isn't a part of his vocabulary, would it come out in one of his Tourette's episodes? That's my first question. My second question is, if there weren't two black actors on stage, would that word have come out if there were two white actors as part of his Tourette's episode? So, I mean, Nobody's asking you to apologize for Tourette's. That's not even. Nobody said that. You know what I mean? If you offend somebody, you should have the level of respect to apologize and
But he's not going to.
that what you said was offensive,
He's
even
not
if
going
it wasn't intentional.
I'm
Because
gonna
you're the one that said it. And the
Well,
person,
so going back to what we're saying, if it was never part of his Tourette-ness, right? This also can fall into a what can you say, trying to get clicks and what have you, because if it's never been part of whatever and he's saying it and we're still talking about it, I mean, this might be a Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, whatever. And people will say this stuff and hide behind whatever, but yet still it's the same concept.
Well, Deion Coles did this the other night. I don't know if it was the NAACP awards he was hosting or he was on, and he mentioned like if you are white with Tourette's, read the room, right?
right.
Oh yeah, he was praying for people. He was praying for people. He
Right,
prayed for somebody's backside,
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he
right?
did.
And
But
then
I'm
he
just
prayed
saying,
for all white people that have Tourette's.
Please read the
Please
room.
read the room.
So do you think he would have did that in the room of all of us? No, it wouldn't have happened. He would have thought about it. He'd have fought that Tourette's. He'd have fought that word to the end.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I think it was on his heart. I think he used the Tourette situation as the situation, and he do owe us an apology. He do owe people an apology, at least them two, because
I agree.
I mean,
I'll say this. I'll say a couple of things to that though. Let me say one thing because I have an affinity, and I think just to add this layer to it, I have an affinity for special needs people. I love them. I
Me
love
too.
them so much,
Me
and
too.
I think they are God's gift, to be honest, to help us to see the world differently.
Mhm.
And um, so, and I was actually over in London last year, and I never forget it. And I was walking through London and somebody who was special needs. I'm not sure they had Tourette's, but they literally, I think, started going off, yelling at me, and was talking about, where's P Diddy? And I'm thinking, the guy just started yelling, where's P? And then like the guy was trying to, move him along. And then, I think he might have said the N word before he got left. They moved out the way. I wasn't sure, but it was clear that, I was thinking, my mom was like, I'm in London. I'm getting yelled at about P. Diddy. It was like, just out the blue. And I realized, okay, this is a special needs person. You can see what it was. You can see it is. So I do want to say that on that note, this clearly is someone who has Tourette, and there's some needs there. The thing for me that's concerning, and I wouldn't want him to say that the N word. That's unfortunate, but I am concerned that the BBC didn't bleep out the N word, but then bleeped out Palestine, and
Right.
so they had time to then to do that, and that's on the machine, not on the word. Because the word, the live audience, people in the audience can hear a lot of stuff, but with people here at home, they heard that as well.
Right.
And they didn't bleep it out, and they bleeped out Palestine. So I'm just saying that what's the larger crime here? Is it him with Tourette's? And it is. We get it. He should apologize. He shouldn't apologize. That's him. But why is it that this machine is more afraid of saying Palestine than they are having us called the N word? And that's, I think, is the real conversation.
Now you're coming into my world with production, though. So there's very selective production thing going on there. I feel you on that one.
Hey, Rev, when he called you P. Diddy, you should have slapped him and said, "Take that," and hugged him afterwards.
Hey, gentlemen, there was a viral image of Taye Diggs in a dress that went viral. Dave Chappelle once took strong issue with this and said he refused to allow them to put him in a dress in what he viewed was an intentional attempt to degrade and emasculate the black man. Do you agree or disagree with Dave Chappelle's analysis?
Well, I agree. I agree totally. When I was 22 years old, I did a movie called a leprechaun in the hood. It was not in the script for nobody to have a dress on, right? And then they put it in the script for my partner, A.T. Montgomery, to put a dress on. I get on set and they got it. They done rewrote the whole script for me to now make it funny to have a dress on to lure the leprechaun in, right? That's what they thing was. I told them I wasn't gonna put the dress on, right? I go home for 3 days. My agent called. They begged me for 3 days. It's funny, Red. It's woo woo woo. And I had to put that dress on. I felt so demasculated, whatever the word is, whatever, demasculating. And I said, when I died after they killed me in the movie, I said, not in the dress, Post, not in the dress. And that wasn't in the script, but in my spirit, I could not just die regular, because I think that Hollywood want to see us all in freaking dresses.
Yeah.
You feel me? As black men, they want to take our masculinity away. I was 22 at the time, and I was getting paid a lot of money. I say, man, I ain't know no better. That was back.
He froze.
Oh, Red froze.
I feel bad to this day when people come.
No, he's freezing.
Yeah, Etan, go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Dave Chappelle.
Me too.
And the stance that he took with that, because he said, you know, he came under a lot of scrutiny. I mean, not now people seem to have forgotten kind of what happened before. I mean, they called Dave Chappelle crazy. Then he went to Africa. They was like, went to Africa? Like, what? He's crazy. Like, they were putting all these different rumors about him and everything like that. And I looked at different interviews. I was like, well, he don't sound crazy. He just sounds principled. He sounds like there's something that they was trying to make him do, and he didn't want to do. And there was something else that he was listed. It was the interview. I don't know if he was with Oprah or somebody he was sitting down with, and it made sense what he was saying when I heard it. And I think that sometimes you got to be able to stand for something. Like, you got to be able to say, you know what I mean? No. Like, you got to take like what Cat Williams say. Sometimes you got to tell, did he know? Like, that's what he said to Shannon. She's like, you got to be able to say no. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, okay, you want me to do that? The answer is no. Now, we're going to still be able to do this movie? Are we still going to be able to do this show without me doing that? Because I'm not doing that. And you have to be able to stick to your principles.
Well, they always go back to Mrs. Doubtfires and all of that back.
It's different for white people, though.
I know. I know. I respectfully agree with you. It's like they created the character, you know, and I just feel like we should never put ourselves in that situation, you know. And I tell all actors, don't do it, cuz. Don't do it. You'll feel bad for the rest of your career about it. Now, if you just like to wear dresses, that's cool. I mean, you know, some people do like to wear dresses. But if you one of them ones that you don't, nah. And two, I think because he took that stand, he saved a lot of actors.
Yeah.
Him and Cat Williams, you know what I'm saying, saved a lot of actors. Saved a lot of black actors. You know, so now when they go on set, they don't try it no more as much. They don't even write it in the script no more. You know what I'm saying? Martin's movie, I forgot when he
Big Mama?
Yeah, Big Mama might be the last one. You know, the white chicks might be the last ones. You feel me? But Hollywood do, like, they want their best to be able to say, we had you by the balls.
Wow.
And it has an impact. I know a lot of actors, and to Red's point, who do that, and it has an impact on them. After they do that, they like, man, that was in that theater. Because you got to think about when you go to that theater with your family and you watching that premium, you at the AMC, wherever you at, and you watching it, and all of a sudden, you know, your homeboys or your mama, your cousins, and here you walk on stage, and they kind of, you know, everybody's, you know, they kind of sticking around, different, you know, look at you in the dress, and you kind of feeling fun. And that goes also for women. I mean, that also goes for them to get them
Yeah.
to be naked at the drop. It's not artistic.
Sure.
It's like it ain't no And to be honest, I mean, we got to think about it. Halle Berry got an Oscar
Yeah.
for a crazy process, and
Yeah.
so
You talking
you
about
know what I
Marcy
mean?
Ball? Are you talking about
Yeah, I
This is
mean,
ball, yeah.
Make me feel good.
yeah, and I know a lot, and that, I mean, but that's the whole thing. And a lot of them actors or actresses didn't think, well, that's what I got to do then. I mean, and so they also would give awards for things
Yeah.
to make it seem like it's the way it should be. So that's why it is very important for those in these positions to be like, nah, that's not it. And then for us to be, that's why it's so important with Sinners and what Ryan's doing and with the whole process to be in charge and be like, nah, we're not, we're gonna display a different look.
Right.
And we can win differently. We can excel. We can, and that's to the point that why with Dave and with the Cats and those who have done that, and the Dick Gregors and the Mom Mableys, and they just keep going back. When people have made those decisions, and you know, that's also one of the reasons why people then attack. Because when you do make a decision and you say I'm not winning, well, that's not his decision. I'm not wearing that dress. It's blackball you.
It's also like, you know, certain roles that we take, period.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We ain't even in that situation no more. We have elevated ourselves. They used to didn't even want to let us have families until you know the Cosby Show,
Right.
and you know, on that level with a doctor and a lawyer, and everybody went to college, and you know, these are images, man. It's about imaging. You know, it really ain't about the dress. It's about the image that you have in that. You know, it's about the image they try to portray you as. You know, and we need to start having our own. We gotta. It don't take, and that's why my production company is being so successful right now, because people don't understand the digital age has changed everything. We don't have to go and beg to shoot a movie no more.
No.
We don't need. My first film I did in '99 cost me $500,000 to damn near $1 million. That was so hard to pay back, and you had to have all of these colorations and all of this stuff going on. Now you could take you could take $5,000 and make that same film. Write it, use Chat GPT to expand your thoughts. You know, we really could be creating our own images right now without anybody. We got the internet. We have it right at our hands.
Yeah. Now that's good. That's good. Gentlemen, I'm going to take it to some political stuff to end this.
We're right at an hour and 2 minutes, just to let you know.
Yeah. I'm going to wrap it up, but I definitely got to hit on some politics. I mean, we did some entertainment. Definitely got to hit some politics before we roll out of here. Here's a fire starter, a thought for you right here. There's no difference between the two political parties, and the lesser of the two evils is a trap to cause black people to settle for less from the Democratic Party.
Well, I've been in, I ran for mayor of Washington, D.C. as an independent in 2022. And I ran for council as a Democrat. And when I tell you, my stomach hurt when I ran as a Democrat, because I saw that we are not really backed like we think we backed. You know, the independent route is a route, you know, because we are independent as people. We need to start thinking like that. We chase what we don't even understand for the most part in politics. We don't even understand who love us and who don't love us right now. And it's a shame, because when you take, and I'm not degrading anything, but I'm just saying, when you take Award 7 and Award 8 in Washington, D.C., and you look at the percentage of voting to 8% and 9% of the registered voters, that means that somebody ain't happy. That means that somebody ain't being motivated and educated enough to say, or they don't feel like it's nobody love them. So we got to get to the point where it's bigger than the system. It's really about educating ourselves
Mhm.
and having our own, because I promise you, it's like a good relationship. If somebody walk away from that relationship that is needed, believe me, that other person is gonna follow. And we've been in a relationship that's been abusive for a long time in politics, and neither side has really given us anything.
Mm.
They dangled a carrot in front of us.
You all agree or respectfully disagree, Etan and Rev?
Go ahead, Rev.
I respectfully understand.
Yeah.
I think I think that's a way to put that. I would say, this is for us on this call. Oh, all of us on this call are people of a darker hue. We black men, and we've had to deal with both the American dream and the American illusion, and we get the illusion much more than the dream, and that also goes into our politics. And I think there's a direct attempt, for those who want to ensure that our voices aren't heard, so that we don't get what we're supposed to get. Where it gets sad, and this is from the standpoint of both Democrat and Republican in many places, is that when it becomes corporate and it becomes corporatized, and then those folks are not actually fighting for the people who they look like and who put them in power. Because if I vote, if I have a party, say the Republicans, who I know don't like me, then I'm gonna be okay. Well, I know they don't like me, but if I put you in charge, and I think you do like me, and then you get into the same thing that the person who I thought didn't like me, that's crippling. And like, man, but that should have out. This is hard. I thought, and that's why people in DC, that's why we love Marion Barry, because we felt that allegiance there, because we felt like, man, he was at least he was going to do what he was going to do on all levels. He was going to do from the crack to the other pieces, but he was still going to have us in the conversation. And this situation is that we get frustrated because it just feels like you playing a game, and the game with our lives, and we don't have we. That's why it's such a hard position. That's why we want people to be in these positions to fight. With that being said, in the era that we're in now, we are in the era of Trump, and Trump is something that's very, very different, and is something that it is literally fighting our communities. They are creating documents. They are creating Project 2025 and other documents to literally to annihilate our future and our future for our kids. That is a different situation. And so then we have to then align ourselves. But I do think political education, which was so important for the past from the Black Panther Party, obviously the group that I work with, Hip Hop Caucus. I mean, we do that all the time. And I would just say, if folks want to get down with political education, respect my vote, check out Hip Hop Caucus so we can get down. But this is a real serious time that we're dealing with politically.
Mm-hmm.
And I 100% agree with you, Reverend Yearwood. So like Red Grant said, as far as the voter turnout in the 7th Ward and 8th Ward, and I think there's a reason for that, though. I mean, right now, when you talk to people in DC, they're frustrated with the direction of our leadership. And talking about Mayor Bowser, just collectively. I mean, you talk to white progressives, you talk to Black people in the street, you talk about to the young people. There's a collective feeling that she capitulated to everything that Trump wanted. There's that feeling. And you hear the people try to break down, well, you got to understand statehood, you got to understand the national. People don't want to hear all that. Like, okay, that's fine. But we're looking at we're looking at what we're seeing with our eyes, and you can't tell us that the reason why this happened is because this and this and this, as if that makes it okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that the Democrats are doing a lot of times is like Reverend Yearwood said, yeah, we're seeing this from the Republicans, and then the Democrats are telling us, well, we kind of had to do this, and it was kind of out of our hands, but it's the same thing that the Republicans were doing. Well, that don't make it no better. Right. You know what I mean? Just because you explained it a little differently. I mean, you have young people, an entire young group that was like, okay, what's going on with this genocide is wrong. We cannot, keep supporting this. And you had Trump out there saying, well, we want, Netanyahu to finish the job, and we want him to do everything. So he's saying that. But then you had Biden over here saying, well, they should be a little more careful with how they're, so they can try to avoid civilians and everything like that. But here's another check. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, that's the same thing. Like, you just put it a little bit different ways. And so I understand young people when they are frustrated with the system. I understand groups of people who are like, well, we're not interested in either one of them. I understand it. But then, like Reverend Yearwood said, there's a special case right now with Trump. And it's like a special evil. You know what I mean? A special level of destruction. So it's a hard position that we're in. So even talking about DC in particular, the direction that the new leadership is going to go into, they have to be able to energize the groups that have so much doubt. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to in order to get more involvement, more buy-in, more believing. Because right now, people don't believe. That's not true.
So Brett Devnam 480 said Republicans fight culture wars, Democrats try to rationalize. At the end of the day, the white billionaire at the top is pulling the strings. They coming from the comments.
It's true. Is that true? Do any of y'all disagree with that?
I respectfully agree.
I respectfully agree.
100% true. 100% true.
Now we're in very tumultuous times, both locally but I think again these conversations are so therapeutic for people that have been blowing up my texts and everything, saying this is great, keep it going, and I think that we're onto something here. Rev Yearwood, minister, community activist, thank you so much. Etan Thomas, my man. 100 grand athlete, community activist, and Red, yo to the noops, comedian, community activist. You guys have just brought the heat. And again, this was me and Etan's dream, to have conversations like this, and got comments. Where are the women? They're coming.
They're coming.
Where the white people? Where the white people at? They coming too. But this is just the conversation that we wanted, kind of like a PTI for Black people, so we can respectfully disagree. And I just feel that we're taking this on the road. Our next one is going to be April 14th at Morgan State University. So all my Morgan State people, stand up, show up. We're going to be there. We're going to be in Atlanta this summer for NABJ. We're going to be there. We have stops scheduled for Howard University, Texas Southern, Maryland, Penn State. Everybody's leading out to us because they understand that this is something they ain't never seen before, right? People that can get together and respectfully disagree and have conversations. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for the time, for the sound bites that are going to come out, because I know some are going to be pulled right from this hour-long conversation. For one being Touretteness, I know that's what it's Red, I thank you so much, man. You bring so much color to everything, and I just thank you all so much. So for everybody watching, thanks so much for the gathering spot that was going to host us. We'll be back. Etan's going to be posting all of us on our social media platforms. Make sure you follow us to see what we're doing next. Everybody's doing great things in the community. And again, my favorite quote outside of the Bible is from the late, great Jackie Robinson that says, a life is not important except on the impact that it has on other lives. And these three gentlemen right here are doing just that, making impact on other people's lives. So thanks so much for watching. I respectfully disagree. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Peace.